Rite of Passage is back and it is better than ever. Starting February 16th this year, you'll get to enter to try and get your chance to make XGS. With just a $50 entry fee, you get direct invite to our round robin stage where it is best of threes for every game, making sure every single chance, every game, every round has the most meaning possible. The best teams in the round-robin group stage will make it on to our single elimination playoffs, where they can fight for not only a chance for the lion's share of a $1,000 plus grand prize, but also a chance, a direct invite to the next season of XGS. Signups close February 13th, just 3 days before the event actually starts, so make sure you gather your teammates, friends, and sign up, because this is your chance to make a name in the scene. Are you ready? Find out here.
Hello guys, my name is Sino and that is Cards, and lots of Siege is always packed out earlier in the week, and today we bring to you XGS Playday 4, which will be the round robin. Cards, how are you feeling today?
Pretty damn good myself. How you doing?
I'm excited for the game and games at hand. I know we're going to be on a little bit of the shorter end of the stick with only one game on the board, but I'm still excited to get that on the board. I feel like the games today are going to be absolute bangers, and the matchmaking has been absolutely godsend because we can really see how these teams challenge each other, with our standings starting out just reminding us on what we've seen previously in the past streams, with Unity topping the standings, Bossack Nation coming in a close second with a 1-point differential, SSG coming in at the third position, Karn following alongside with Sen, Team Sesh, and Orgles.
It's been a pretty dang impressive group stage for all of them there. Obviously, we've seen some lowlights, we've seen some highlights, but at least to start off, our first game there is really going to be an exciting one. I mean, I'm really excited to see, I think, arguably two of my favorite teams, two teams that have really been on the uptick after a very, very good play day before. It should be a banger.
I honestly feel like sometimes XGS is just that sweet spot where we could really test teams to see what they can bring down from their Tier 2 experience down back to the Tier 3 level, and what teams who haven't competed at the Tier 2 level can do against the teams that have this prior experience. We have so many different players today with so many different backgrounds, especially for a team like Unity, where half of their players have played under names like Valor Esports. Some of them have even played at the Tier 1 level. There's so many different things that can happen today, and I'm excited to see what they will bring for us. Starting off with Unity, we'll have Hat, Hiru, Vic Vance, BJL, and Reppers lining up on the first side of the coin. And facing against them, the newly picked up Space Station Academy, where you're going to see the prodigies like Kaysen, like Adept, and following it with that new pickup, you have players like Penguin as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously seen a pretty insane play from Unity just last night, an 8-7 win there. I mean, you couldn't get closer, but it really did show, I think, that the team feels complete. It feels like we're seeing a much more refined Unity compared to your first play days there, and they've really come into their own here.
Agreed, and I honestly feel like looking at how the players on SSG Academy usually do play, it really just depends on how they're feeling. I feel like they prefer the BO3s better because they perform a little bit more when they have more room to work with, because sometimes they're a little bit late to the punch, and maybe that is because a lot of these players don't have that Tier 2 experience yet and they haven't learned how to pace themselves correctly. But hopefully, with a player like Retro heading all of them with their IGL spot, they'll have the opportunity to pace themselves in a BO1, because there's no second chance in this game. They have to come out the gate swinging, and with players like Adept and Kaysen as your superstars and a new pickup like Penguin and Scary to hold it all together, he's the glue, I feel like we're in for a very good matchup today.
Yeah, I mean, literally just last night there, they had probably one of the greatest games we've seen from them in a long time there. Played Orgles, 1-7-1. It felt like everyone was firing on all cylinders. So, I mean, coming into this game here against probably their hardest opponent so far, you really couldn't ask for a more refined SSG Academy right now. You couldn't ask for a better group of them, and they're going to have to do it on, if it loads, we got ourselves Fortress, if I'm not mistaken. A wonderful map, in my opinion, and one that we've at least seen Unity play once they're in the Swiss stage. They beat Team Sesh in a 8-7 banger. So there's at least a little bit of experience from them, but SSG maybe not as much really long term.
Feeling like I was going into this cast expecting to see a little bit of a larger map than Fortress, because looking at the last 5 matches for each team, yes, you saw Fortress in the earlier stages of XGS, but when we look beyond this league and start seeping into others, the main rosters, when they start to get to playoff areas, they kind of look to stride away from maps that are of 2 floors or a little bit smaller compared to the traditional Chalet or Clubhouse. I really did expect to see either a Nighthaven or Clubhouse game, but it looks like both teams are going to challenge each other on Fortress. Now, it is newer. It has a lot of time, or it has had a lot of time to be learned, but still there can be a lot of mistakes. It can be easy to make these mistakes very easily early on into the game, which kind of allows it a higher differential to work with. So hopefully both of these teams learn the ins and outs of their playstyles before this game gets a little bit too out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of variables at play. It's the new map. There's a lot of new strats, new bans. There's even though we see some pretty default bans here, you expect electricity in the hard breach denial. There's still so many things that can change in between each team and how it's played. We've seen Unity have obviously found success there. They beat Sesh in what is Sesh's best map, I'd argue. So seeing them, I think, take this confidence and realize that we already had a big win here. Let's roll it back into this here. Let's try to do it again against a really strong SSG Academy right now. I respect it. I feel like it is a really big play here, showing that we're still strong and that just because you have big names doesn't mean you're going to scare us off one of our best maps.
A real question in that case: who do you feel like wins this?
I mean, I gotta say, I love SSG Academy right now. I think their 7-1 win was generational. It's a really great step in the right direction, and their coach has really done wonders with them. But I think in this case, the team is just so strong and ready. BJL just dropped 15. You had a sub come in and drop 14 and 7. It feels like this team has been destined for that big stage. It's been destined to just continue winning. And until I see a reason for them to not be doing so, I'm going to pick Unity.
Yeah, I feel like their squad depth is something that really does help them out. I mean, it was kind of the exoskeleton of this roster, where some of these players were playing on the Moneyball team for the NAL LCQs for SI 2026. And a lot of these players were showing us how easy it is to show how interchangeable this team is with different components. You had Monk Gojo, you had Kool-Aid, you had so many different players really showing us what they can really display on the field, and that's something that makes them a very reputable team. And even with different namesakes each and every time we see them play, they still are very, very feared. And the map like Fortress, I feel like anything can happen.
Yeah, and I will say going into the round here, not a big surprise, but there's always one thing I like to point out here. Retro, as what is considered the more IGL-like player, can be very, very aggressive at times. So don't mistake him for being just because he's commanding the offense. He's doing it from behind here. He could very well get aggressive with that Blackbeard shield, really push the pen. So be worried about him, see what he can do. But overall, the walls open up very slowly here as we each in to just a minute in.
Those of you who missed the open qualifiers, SSG dropped one map against 10 guns, and that was something that really showed what level of quality they're bringing to the table. And with an easy mistake from Retro, he'll get shot in the side by BJL, but Kaysen will instantly get back into the game by taking care of Represent now by opening up this old tower side. They'll discourage anybody else from swinging up those stairs so those cracked fingers get placed, and it's going to be a little bit longer before anybody can get aggressive on the other side of the map.
Yeah, and I mean, a pick in here, getting rid of that Blackbeard is going to do wonders, but losing Reapers on the Azami hurts so much. I mean, the regenerative utility you can bring, the flexibility with those Kiba barriers really would have helped stop what is a strong, strong defense. So at least going to have to really work this one around here. And just with a minute left, it is getting very, very close in that time frame here.
I'm loving the roster for Unity here. Look at the operators. It's rare that you see a Thorn and a Mozzie in year 10 of Siege, but with their newer changes where Thorn gets a better fuse time and Mozzie obviously has a super shorty back, it's honestly so refreshing to see the defensive roster stray away from the staple picks, and with a lot more utility to offer and flex spots with those Razor Blooms, we can see some creativity here. Now, it's forced into the favor of Unity as they got very aggressive from that old tower side yet again, leaving just 40 seconds on the clock for SSG Academy to continue to pick them off one by one.
Yeah, and you reach this close point here. You have the advantage for SSG Academy, but Hat seems to have a slow play here. An angle maybe, but Adept finds one. He makes it two, and as madness ensues, SSG Academy pull out the first one. Very, very quick succession of a triple.
SSG Academy just pick this team apart one by one. Unity, I mean, they thought they had the right sight hold there. They had the long head holes. They even extended out into Old Tower, but even with that, there's absolutely no material that they can use in their favor as they're eventually just picked off like sitting ducks.
Yeah, I mean, it looked so good, as you mentioned. It looked like a really well refined defense, and I honestly expected it to be a win there, even with the disadvantageous situation they held in terms of the personnel. Everything else looked great, and it's a little surprising to see him, lose that first round here, but it's a good show for SSG Academy. I mean, you want to do big here after your breakout win. You had one of the best games we've seen from them, arguably ever, when everyone was playing perfect against some really good competition of Orgless. If you win this here, it is a really scary thing for most teams, showing that the first game wasn't a fluke, that you are absolutely a new threat within XGS.
Now, when this map first released, I know a good majority of the casters and even some players were leaning towards this map being a little defender-sided. But this could just be personal belief. I feel like it starts to lean a little bit more towards the attackers, especially with the dynamic bans. If Bandit and Cade get taken care of, then the external walls, like solo wall, if you're not playing feed holes on it, can get a little bit annoying for the defenders to deal with, especially with the amount of external pressure that you can apply. I do feel like this starts to lean a little bit more towards the attackers, but still, it's a meta that is still to come. It's a map that's still being discovered as the days go on, regardless if it's been out for months or not. So I like to see how teams really do challenge the narrative of maps being two-sided in a way, but as it looks like Unity is going to go to the same exact site, it'll be Kiro to open it up onto Penguin, taking care of that Ying, but in the meantime, the Aura, backed up by the Blip, are going to take so much control of Museum and just funnel into sight here, but Retro, yet again, just shot in the side of the body for the second time in a row. Reppers finding Retro and BJ cleaning it all up, leaving Scary on Museum by his lonesome, no case in hand. A minute in, and almost everybody has dropped a 2v1, and he has to just be able to isolate it here. BJL's a little bit further away. He's playing closer for the case here. Kiru is being a little bit risky, but it kind of restricts anybody from closing in that distance at that range. It's just about forcing the mistakes from Scary and shaving off his health one by one. But as of now, it looks like this is a round that leans toward Unity, but Scary has the case in hand, and anything becomes possible in this game.
You have to be so careful here. I mean, as you mentioned, it's a 2v1. The odds are certainly not in your favor. But that case can give you so much power here. You're forced to at least recognize the player of Scary. You can't just sit back and play it safe. You really do have to be careful about what is he going to do. Is he going to go aggressive on you? Is he going to fake the plan? Or if he sticks it here, what situation are you in? Things can go bad quick if you're not paying very close attention here.
Now, the downside of being able to take care of everybody on that attacking team so early is there's just so much time left for the remaining attackers to get the job done here. Now, Scary wants to close out that distance. You'll have to reactivate the Aura barricade, but it doesn't work out as Kiru is positioned perfectly to capitalize on that mistake, and he'll take care of him, giving Unity a firing back round, and they'll be forced to 1-all.
Yeah, and that felt like a big resurgence, obviously, as you mentioned, that fire back round where, you couldn't play that 2v1 better. You really, I think, there could have been a lot of things that went wrong. If Scary went aggressive there, you could have lost bodies. But they played it right. They realized once he had the diffuser, they get just a little closer. They don't aggress him too much. They still keep some level of cover there, but they at least aggress enough where he can't just sit there and get a free plant. They play this game, as we saw, where it's not easy, because you're forced to either go for the plant, stick it, knowing that smoke is breathing down you. It's such a hard situation, but I think Unity played it absolutely perfect.
Now, I do like to see the different teams and how they approach these sites. I mean, you would have thought that the waiting room site would be a heavy favorite due to a lot of inaccessible verticality here, but apparently not, as both teams have been attacking and defending the uppermost floor as of now, with the first being commanders, and now they'll be heading on over to the dorm site. There's a bunch of different setups. You can play soft wall on Old Tower and extend out. You can play on the mirrors external facing those breaches, or you can decide to just reinforce every wall and swing anything that moves, and that TDM meta usually does work if you could play the utility to the correct side, but I guess a team like SSG Academy, I feel like that works.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they're just playing what they know. They've shown a very similar play multiple times now on their Fortress games. It's not a big surprise. I think that in a case like this, where you're just 2 rounds in, you're really you want to play this standard default game that you trust in your IGL. You trust Retro to be able to handle whatever adjustments may need to be made and just go that same default path, because that's won you games before. And I get why you don't want to try to change your plans too aggressively for a team, even if they are this very aggressive Unity group.
A team like Unity, they obviously have their obvious flaws when it comes to chemistry styles. I feel like that's honestly their biggest problem as of now, but as many of these players have tier 1 and even tier 2 experience, there's so much that they know how to do. But on a map like Fortress, a newer mindset is being challenged, and right now it's usually SSG Academy to find the first pick, as the second round out of 3 where they'll do so, they can get 2 bodies within a minute and 30, and one of them has those toxic waves and the other one has already gotten the Razor Blooms down. But still, this man advantage is something that SSG Academy are very good at establishing. They can also force that snowball effect very well. With 90 seconds left, only having Vic Bands on this side of the map, it's starting to get a little bit concerning for Unity.
Yeah, things could go so bad so fast, but we've seen this clutch factor from him before just on this map. He's at least able to find Retro, keep the ball rolling in the right direction, but the bodies could always fly another direction. You got to remember the advantage is still held by SSG Academy here. They still have a minute time, a lot of utility to work with, and even though it was a good step here, it was a good play, there's still so much that can go wrong. There's still so much that could really cause a Unity, at least looking good right now, to flop at the very end.
I agree, you need to have this Legion fall off. He also has those definitive twos, and he needs to be able to hold it for his team. And although they're down a body, having 3 instead of 2 is obviously the better case for Unity here. And as this team starts to force the effect of pressure, you need to be able to keep these guys on a backhill. But the perfect positioning from Vic Bands will take care of Kaysen to Dexo through the wall. Right back up to a leveled man count, as now 30 seconds puts SSG into a little bit of a concerning zone because they need to make their minds up right here and right now.
Yeah, there's so much you have to do, but the aggression can still be there from SSG Academy. They still have Scary, who's been on a run, Adept as well. Both of your main men who've really been pushing the kills are still alive. The chance is still there, but it's all about playing these good fights, and with all the bodies coming out, Scary, Vic Bands, Penguin gets himself a nice one, but a 1v1 now. Penguin left in a near impossible situation. You plant the diffuser, but if you go too aggressive here, it could be over.
No way.
And Penguin catches it out. Vic Bands maybe a little bit too aggressive for the ace there. Really wanted it, the kill, but it seems it's not going to come, and a little too much over-aggression there.
Scary playing to that mental ability very fast. He wants to let his thoughts be heard very, very fast, and a little bit of overheating from Vic Bands kind of forces that mistake down Unity, and them going down around is kind of essential for the earlier stages of this map. The third Bands coming in. They no longer have that zombie to rely on, and it looks like we're still going to continue to remain on that second floor. Lots of concerns around how that round was played out. A 2-man advantage within 30 seconds. There's still so much that they have to do.
Yeah, and I think that the worrying thing there is not so much that we saw them lose the round. It was in that fashion where, you know, Vic Bands had an insane round, truly one that shows why he is that top player, why he can still be a superstar in any round, and you have to be terrified of him. But it also is a double-edged sword. Unity is one of the most aggressive teams in the entirety of XGS. There's no debating that. They're really up there in the aggression. But sometimes they can get over-aggressive like that. They might go for the pick too often. They might be a little bit too aggressive, and that costs them that round. So what might get them wins now could very well cost them the game later on.
Head back to dorms. It looks like Unity is a little bit more in an endless circle than anything else. It's really not about trying any other sites until the rotation parameter unlocked. Dorms it again, and I'm very concerned to see how this plays out for them, considering they play a little bit passive, but at the same time, they put their heads in angles that shouldn't be there to begin with. They pay the price each and every single time. With that being said, it looks like the external play is going to be a little bit more important for SSG Academy, as they're starting to learn that they can get their picks before even having to enter the building.
Yeah, and I think it's really going to be interesting to see, because we saw a very, very strong looking Unity against Karn & Co. And it felt like they were really able to isolate picks and go aggressive on maybe some more unsuspecting people. But so far, it maybe hasn't been there all the same. You've obviously seen people pop off Vic Bands with that quad. But I feel like maybe the issue right now is what we saw, what defined them in their win was the ability to capitalize on moves, capitalize on under-aggression or over-aggression. And so far, we just haven't seen, I think, that same level of picking up.
Just a minute and everything's kind of calm. There's really nothing to do here when you've decided to actually reinforce that meeting, while the briefing room triple wall is going to be fully reinforced, opposed to how they were playing it soft here. But it looks like Rep is really going to take the advantage of having that Valkyrie, and Adept is here to find that refrag almost instantaneously. And with that following up, Vic is playing on the contact for a revenge kill on the other side of the map, forcing that case loose. 90 seconds left, and they've yet to unlock this side of the map. Bathroom is being held down by Vic Bands as he's really finding comfort in isolating his ones, and it's working out in his favor. But still, SSG Academy are just shy one body. We've learned from them before. It is very possible for them to just bring this back.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope that they can correct the mistakes here of their last rounds, give it a little bit of redemption to it. But a C4 goes wide. Adept will not die, but that health damage is going to do significantly more here. It's going to be a really hard fight to go, as you're already going to be so low. Anything will kill you at this point.
Adept in a gust of wind, his worst enemy. But with just below a minute, he's going to have to get aggressive, whether he likes it or not. He's using that death mark to get the general location of one of the defenders before canceling it, so it doesn't expose him for a little bit longer. As the clock continues to run down, it looks like Unity have switched up the playstyle, as we're going to learn to park the bus within the site. Wait until this timer sees Retro trying to walk in through that central door, but there's absolutely nothing he can do, especially with those razor blooms lurking near that barbed wire. Shot by Vic.
You'll see him hit another nutty shot there. It's what he does best, but at 23 seconds here, you're just looking so hard for a pick here if you're SSG. You're looking for that redemption to be found. Kaysen will at least find something, but finished off by Unity nonetheless. Another round, and certainly a much better one.
Night and day difference cards. You can really tell when Unity are playing cohesive, smart Siege. They played in sight. They had a soft extension, and they had Vic go into the bathroom to play on that solo roam. And even then, he has an easy access way back to the site through one hallway. Opposed to the round prior to that, where they just decided to swing everything, get first picked 2 times, and pay the price for that. It's a beautifully executed round as they force it 2-2 again, and they win this one. They can be looking at the first time having the lead in the series.
Yeah, I mean, could always be this thing, and I think this is always a fun little thing, is you're seeing this back and forth, and it feels like Unity have been pretty well known for that. In a lot of their close games, it feels like whenever they are truly close in a game, it is always going to be this round 15 banger. It feels like whenever I see them, they're either going to dominate, which doesn't seem to be happening right now, where they're going to take it as far as they can, hopefully get the the long game series here. So far, it's been a good fight, and I think that's the big thing, is it feels like both these teams are slowly coming into the rhythm here. They're both feeling just a little bit more into themselves, as you get your early round jitters out of there. You get rid of maybe some early mistakes, getting used to a new team, and try to get into that point where you truly feel like every single attack you're doing is one of your best.
Looks like Retro's back on that shield off. He hasn't been having the best of times. I think we can count on our fingers how many times we've seen him on the replay just getting shot in the side every single time he tries to find access way into the building, and really for a spear entry like a shield operator. Usually it's on the Blackbeard, but ever since he got banned, it's been the blitz for Retro. You usually see them establish dominance within the building quite fast and grab as much real estate as they can, but hasn't been the case for Retro, and he really is suffering, and we're seeing the rest of the team kind of soar. They're all positive, and now they're looking for their picks, as again, that external play is crucial to the SSG Academy playstyle.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, I think, the perfect scenario. Obviously, you would like to have a couple more rounds there, and maybe you could have, but you are realistically doing as good as you can. And more importantly, you're looking very, very strong here. I mean, it feels like that breakout game, it was really just a highlight, last game, what we saw from them against Orglis. This is just another continuation of that, a continuation of that same high-level Siege. And while Retro might be struggling for the picks, his value can still be found. Madness ensues in the site. Already 2 bodies down, and Unity take an early advantage.
Gives me an earlier reminder of how Layer looked in the earlier stages. Just a complete Call of Duty-centric map as everybody's just swinging, trying to find their picks. But eventually it leans in the favor of Unity. It's just gunfights galore. Not really a game plan behind SSG's push there, and they're going to pay the price for that. As Unity finally grab that lead, and they're finally going to go on to that first floor, as we're going to see them try to play off that tertiary site.
Yeah, and another thing I want to point out here is, well, a 3-3 half in general for maps wouldn't be great. You want the 4-2 leading defensive. I think in a map like Fortress right now, I've seen a lot of these where a 3-3 can not only win you it, but you can really excel. I think that this map can be very polarizing for some teams. I think certain play styles really don't benefit from the attack or defense here. And I think, like, as we literally just saw, sometimes it can just come down to the gunfights here. So sometimes the mechanical skill is going to matter more than how well you can IGL in a map like this, where it's still so raw. There's still a lot of untapped potential. And that can obviously lead to a handful of more aggressive rounds.
Lots to learn from, and I feel like Unity took that as we're going to take this round where it'll be the make or break. It's going to be a high-risk, high-reward round where they're going to go all out in terms of roaming and aggression with that Vigil and the Scopos picked up there. And you can also see Hat lurking around, trying to get as much as they can upstairs, kill as many as they can, and then just fall back into the site if they can keep the bodies. If not, they'll fall down to a 3-all, which, again, is manageable, as you mentioned. They'll be switching on over to the attacking side, but for SSG Academy, this is a round that's pivotal in their momentum.
Yeah, and a pick that we also generally saw in the early stages of Layer. You sort of mentioned it before, how sometimes it can feel like an early stage of a map when it's just getting, into the flow. It can feel very different than what it turns out to be in just 6 months or a year. But I think one op that does benefit is a lot of these more sneaky ops. Something like BJL on Scopos here, where you could have the ability to really sneak yourself into maybe a more underground area, or just a weird niche spot there, and it could really find value on something like a late flank. So we gotta always watch out for that from him and see what could come if they do keep him alive. If they don't find that second body, how much chaos could ensue?
And it burned off the clock. Kind of quiet, opposed to the other rounds where we see carnage within the first 30. Now Rep caught on his EE1D as he's trying to head back into site, now playing very close out into Infirmary. They're free to really move however they want within this site because they're going to hear when this player comes in. 3 external angles that you can push in from this site, and you're really going to be heard whether it's coming in from the Infirmary, the external brick wall, or any door, really. And they're burning time, and they're doing a very good job at it as these roamers are still up and kicking. It looks like SSG Academy has overlooked it completely as they're just going straight for the wall.
I mean, it could pose issues, but Unity at least finds one there. Kiru goes down, but now you got to worry about Retro. Might be 0-5, but the shield can do wonders. A Bosch G shot trying to come loose, but still can't find the pick as the melee continues to ensue. Retro can't quite find it.
No way he won that! I hit fire one tap to Retro? The poor guy can't get anything. Kiru got away and fell with one in the pocket, and honestly, it's enough because the rest of his team is cleaning house. I mean, Retro got his first kill, but at what cost? Way below a minute left, no case in hand, and Scary seems to be scared as he's isolated, has absolutely nothing to do but try to isolate his ones. Will pick off BJL, but again, is just gonna have his health shredded off one by one. And a 4-2 split seems to be the likely case here, unless Scary can pull a cat out of a hat. He really looks to try to bait out the kills before moving on towards the site.
You need miracles here, and we've seen them before in Fortress, many a plenty, even though it's such an early map. But more importantly, you're going to need to see perfect game sense here. You need to be able to take these early fights, play them correctly, but Reapers knows that he's not going to look at every angle, knows that eventually he's going to have to look elsewhere to look for those fights. He'll take advantage, and more importantly, a very successful half for Unity. They're not generally a defender great team on Fortress, but they changed those plans right there and then. They get a 4-2 half, and the advantageous to start off.
Not something I would have expected in the earlier stages of this game, just basing it off that first round, seeing how aggressive SSG really was and how they were running away from the swinger be swung playstyle instead, just relying on the external kills before really making a move, kind of lean towards them winning the first couple of rounds and eventually taking that lead. I didn't expect the comeback this fast from Unity, as they're really just put their foot on the gas and are pushing every mistake out of SSG Academy, and this is where we really start to see the difference between a tier 1 organization, tier 1 players who have played for a tier 1 organization like Reapers, and you see other things like Hat, a player who's played for a good amount of NA teams, previously having stints with Cloud9, Beast Coast, Oxygen, Luminosity. there's so many different players, and how they play is always so essential to the overall team style. And for SSG Academy, not having tier 2 experience due to their age really does put a stint in their plans, as having 1-2 players that have that experience really won't contribute to the overall performance of the team.
Yeah, and I think that will stunt them, as you sort of mentioned. I mean, XGS does provide a lot of good experience for them. It does pit them against those, those real good tier 2 teams. But still, it's it's been mentioned before. Like even in recent timing, where I'd argue a lot of the reason tier 2 teams were able to win, SI quals and make it their way there is because they had a lot more games. I mean, we've seen time and time again when there's more tournaments, when there's more matches to be played in a real competitive setting, it could really see that growth. So it's always going to be a bit of a weak point now for SSG Academy, because they've already reached the point where I'd argue they're the top of Team 3. There is very, very few who can stand up to them when they're on their mood, when they're in the rhythm. But at the end of the day, XGS only runs so much.
Still lots to prove. No lots of speed left to be played unless a 5-2 split is going to be an idea after this round. That means Unity are 1 round shy away from that match point. So much that they can try to do, and looks like Adept is going to start off the round the right way as he takes the head off of Reapers very easily. He could buy to that spear entry, and there's no shield operator to rely on. Despite them being banned, surprisingly enough. Now, a 3-5 man count. It feels like SSG either go big or go home. The round either opens up with them getting 2 in the beginning, or they just get massacred 1 by 1.
And while that might look the case, I at least opt another alternative here. Maybe not the most common, but at the end of the day, look at those players alive. You see Kiru, you see Hat, you see BJL. All of these players have had clutches. All of these players clutch relatively consistently on the side of Unity. So I'm not saying it's all too likely. It's certainly not in their favor. Never count a team like this out. Never count them out, even if the disadvantageous situation is there. Even if it maybe looks impossible. It feels like there's always that chance there for the group.
Just below 90 seconds left on the clock. And no more casualties for Unity here. BGL taking some damage, but nothing to put him in a critical position. Now, Adept really trying to hold out the players from Museum. That's back turned to the wrong player at the wrong time, but 3 frags all pour in, and they all lean towards the favor of SSG ACAD as they pick off these players 1 by 1. They'll get 1 round closer away from taking away Unity's massive round advantage post-split.
Yeah, I mean, it's one round at a time. And I think that SSG Academy is on a much better point here. I think Retro, despite how aggressive he can be, he actually, I'd argue, does better on the defenses in IGL. I feel like his defenses have been more refined as of recent, and it feels like he has a lot more, obviously, superstar power to work with. Kaysen continues to really show up at times, and that's the big thing to look at is you're seeing, even if they're down right now, you're seeing a lot of really good things for SSG Academy. It feels scary and Adept are firing on all cylinders. It could easily become more powerful as if Kaysen can lock himself in. If he can just get a couple kills, get into that rhythm, they might be down a round now, but it feels like they're still an absolute threat to Unity right now.
Some players, you have Vic Vans and BJL performing higher, which wasn't something I was expecting when you have a player like Hat here on the team. But it is what it is, and that's the beauty of these games, especially the BO1s, because anything can happen, and we really can't predict, especially on a map like Fortress. So, as it stands, it looks like both teams are going to have a shield presence, Flash surviving the ban phase, and alongside with Monty as well. And as a small tower push is usually inevitable on this site, there are many things that SSG Academy are hoping for, but the main step should be to get first blood, or maybe 2, as it seems to be their trademark.
Yeah, I mean, you don't generally see entries coming twos, at least in the picks themselves, but I mean, a fun pattern today, and certainly a unique one for that matter, but maybe there can be some pickup from it. Maybe there can be a little bit of change now. Retro still picking up the shield here. Maybe not, obviously, on that attacking side where there's quite a bit more variety, but he still picks up the greatest anti-shield operator on the board. Obviously, you use that clash. You have a lot of real big pressure against someone like BJL, who is that Monty, who's going to want to work his way up slowly and cause pressure, but with Retro there, it could obviously put quite a big monkey wrench in those plans.
BJL establishing a good amount of real estate. So is Retro. It's kind of hilarious to see both sides of the coin. He's going to decide to close out Bathroom. It looks like the Academy using the Mira to play on the triple of briefing instead of relying on the backup of reinforcing that triple and then using the Mira is going to play in their favor because of the amount of time that they can shred out on this bathroom area. Nobody dares to walk up this hallway until BJL clears it out here. Not a single lurking roamer on those stairs yet. Seems to be all 5 are on site, but one mistake, one man falls for this attacking team, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it, especially as long as these black mirrors stay intact.
Sorry, VJL there is at least getting himself in the building. Slowly but surely, you at least have Retro as a sort of the bastion at the gate, really trying to keep out that shield play, trying to just keep buying that time here, as I think he knows if he dies, things could get dire fast. He is the big gatekeeper right now, along with that mirror. It's just a waiting game until something massive happens. It's just a waiting game until just one of these players catches that pick and madness ensues. But for now, we wait. We stew as the bodies start to fall with Scary getting the first.
A 9-man count below a minute. This is impossible. We haven't heard of this yet. Scary opens it up by taking care of Kiru. Penguin on to represent the plant is going to go down regardless. Thick Bands tasked with holding that cross is going to do so perfectly. They have to get this clash away from the case, and as one man's wrapping around, it just feels impossible. They're so focused on the door that they're not expecting the flank. Penguin takes care of Vic, and eventually BJL. SSG strike back after a flawless round to tie it all up.
Well, I mean, so far it's been about as perfect as it gets.
What a round. I think it's the first that we've seen where it's below a minute and we have people alive. It's not a 5v1, it's not a 1v4. It's beautiful. And you saw how either team really tried to get something done. There was no intel on that flank coming in from Museum, and they paid the dear price for it. And that's what makes this map so unique. The main sites are so interconnected that you can just flank within 5 seconds and find yourself mowing down the 2 players that were holding the case with their lives. So, a good comeback for SSG Academy here. Only 2 rounds that they've won to establish a comeback, but still, some teams won't even succeed at that. So, I'm really liking what we're seeing so far, but there's still lots to be played out here, and now both teams are at the equal level.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue bringing up this Scopus pick here. Do I think it's really going to be a big long-term pick? Likely not. At least not in the current form of Scopus. However, in a new map like this, as I previously mentioned, I think it's going to be a fun pick to see. It's you want to get, once again, these ops where you can make use of a little bit maybe more underexperienced map for a lot of these teams. There's very, very, very few teams who are knowing this map proficiently right now, who are doing everything, but Kiru finds 2. Apparently, he has the gap immediately there because he's going to take an early advantage now, and apparently, the entries do continue to come in 2s.
Finally, that's the Kiru that I've been waiting to see here, but Kaysen shutting him down too. Finally, he's awake as well. The big hitters that we were expecting, really trying to show us what they have on the board. BJL looking away at the wrong time, and Kaysen forces that mistake. 3v2, but Hat finally shifts the sails in his team's favor. A minute burned off the clock, and it's what I'm trying to say is a TDM meta on this map. There's absolutely nothing that these teams can do to stop it. And as they finally get the infirmary wall open, things will start to calm down, but Kaysen's presence is still alive.
You got to be careful here. I mean, you're still at a disadvantageous situation. But as you mentioned, a superstar like him and Scary, who's been on a hot streak, can go big at any time here. Doesn't matter what you know about them. Doesn't matter how good you think they are. It feels like he just has that clutching in him. He has that ice in his veins, and now he's going to have to prove it. Scary takes that first fight. The body doesn't quite fall, but Kaysen finds one with the C4. Keeps the dream alive for SSG Academy.
Vic planting in one of the harder places to get it done, but Hat really watching this cross passionately. You know how the players love to have one player on a DMR parked out in the depths of the site while the other one is just sticking it, whether they like it or not. And as both players are up, 2 DMRs at range is going to be a little bit harder to deal with. They have the active pings on one player, not the other. He's sitting on the other side of that cubicle in the infirmary, and he's going to backstab quite easily. Easy round for Unity to get taken care of. Kaysen at prep, not enough to put this team's lead in danger as they'll reclaim it by 1.
I mean, yeah, it feels like a very standard case of what I like to call cat and mouse. Maybe a little bit simplistic for it, but when you're in a situation like that, you have to be this aggressive go-getter in that, in that timing. There's just not enough time for you to really be afforded that passive maneuverability. You have to push the pen every single fight, keep going for those aggressive plays every single fight, and it's a risky play. This time it doesn't work out in SSG Academy's favor, but they have hopefully plenty more to keep proving they can.
I like what we saw from Casey here, especially shutting down here before he started to heat up here, but still, it's not enough to get themselves on the board. There's still so much that Unity can do to force that win away from SSG ACAD, but still. The 5-4 is usually the make or break point because one team is either going to match point or it will be a deadlock.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard situation. If you get to this point, if you're out at the 6-4, it's really impossible. You want to try to get closer here, make it, a doable win for the group of SSG Academy. But in all seriousness, it's a hard fight up. I mean, if you lose the round here, it's so hard to come back from a 6-4. And while I've seen it done before, if you don't get this round here, your game just becomes so much harder.
Looks like they're going to be adamant keeping that Monty on the board here. BJL very good at pushing the defenders into corners, allowing the attackers to just sweep up and clean house one by one. The early picks are always inevitable. Hero almost had one, but Cade, working his way in and around the map, can allow himself to preserve his life for a little bit longer. And but an angle right Hero into the depths of sight, but that DMR, don't be mistaken, is going to be taken care of regardless at that range. 2 body center mass. Just a minute in, the attackers are going to have to halt while they go back to the drawing board and really try to approach how they're going to get into this single wall or push towards Museum without losing bodies or damage, because at this point, the make or break.
Yeah, I mean, we need to go on a retrieval mission here. Please save my man Hero. You need him. I think he's been that big driving force right now. And while generally, losing one player, you can still make that up if you're super aggressive. You just gotta lock in. You gotta find a little more. You gotta just get something going. And I mean, at least for Unity, it feels perfect so far. And they'll make it even better as Reapers does find that first on a scary.
I feel like the crosses, the power spot is being given up so easy by SSG Academy, especially when there's no pressure being applied. That long angle from the Tabaro was so easy to keep locked in, especially because it's a pixel. There's so many angles and hard surfaces protecting you that you just cannot allow yourself to give it up, because now your team is fighting out from within. They're in the depths, they're all bunkered down, and they're forced to try to force these mistakes when they didn't even have to begin with. But regardless, you're on SSG Academy, the mistakes are going to be forced regardless. Adept and Kaysen go big. And with one player restricted outside Museum, it allows them to isolate BJL, but he can hold his own. They'll shut out Adept while Hat is going to rotate out, but Penguin finally shuts him out, and Kaysen with the final blow. What a round that was, and what a task they've managed to complete, as yet again, it's a deadlock.
It's as important as a post-match analysis or a post-round analysis is. I'm just going to point out, that was some insane-ass breath control. Good lord. They ain't giving you no break over there. The aggressiveness from both teams seems to be at 10s. It seems that is the play now, is where maybe the strategy isn't working perfectly at times. You know what? Let's default to some good old FPS gameplay. Let's get aggressive.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
So far and kept it close. Is now both even closer to match point. Neither of them might have.
Now, I feel like an underrated aspect of a lot of Siege below, you know what, we're actually going to say the Tier 1, the pro level. One of the most underrated aspects is the amount of things you say in the L chat. Whether it's trying to mental chalk the other team, letting them know that you're better than them, there's so much that can possibly be done to get into the head of the other team without even having to shoot ahead. And I feel like SSG Academy are trying to use that as well, because they need everything to help them out, especially without the Tier 2 experience. And with some players, 1 or 2 that have the experience, I mean, yes, it's good, it's better than none. But you have Adept, who, if I'm not mistaken, is 15, Kaysen 17, and there's just so much that really shows in terms of period.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, I feel like it's always an entertaining watch with them because while they might not be the most refined players, I mean, you would both agree. I think at some points they can be a raw talent, but they just look so perfect at points, and it feels like you always see those highlights. You see what could be, you see what will be, and the potential is there. So maybe if they can continue their mind games up, maybe if they can lock in and drop a Gen Z meme, maybe they can really get on the nerves of Unity.
Oh my.
I missed
Big
something.
fans. I mean, he's at 9, but he hasn't been seeing too much action recently. He's been on 9 for a good amount of time now. I mean, he's given a second chance at life. That's the second round in a row where we've seen it really down for Unity, but not quite enough to thread the needle. But with Penguin just flying outside the building, it will be. He'll shut down Vic. No longer you'll have 2 hard features, and with Rippers almost dying, thank God, he can trick his way in and around the window, get the job done, and even it out.
Yeah, I don't know why right now. I can just imagine Penguin in that comm right now saying, yeah, I'm going to go for this kill. I'm chasing down Vic Bands for the mental chalk. And honestly, I kind of respect how crazy that is. I respect how insane it is to run out on a down player like that in a situation where it is 1 round away from match point. You move wrong, you could very well lose your game, but you still have the absolute insanity to make that crazy play, to find Vic Bands and lose the hard breach like that. It's great stuff. It's scary on the down. It certainly is not so for SSG Academy.
Retro next. Hero finishing off his down with that frag. A beautiful one-tap from Kaysen. Gets that job done. We trickle below that 1-minute line, and somehow SSG ACAD have managed to give themselves the man advantage in their favor. Kaysen is in the ideal position to force a mistake here. As Raptors lurks into sight, he has to do something. He almost had that backstab, but not enough to materialize. Now a 2-way pinch onto the old tower. Can't rely on forcing yourself onto that rotate, and Kaysen, no matter what he does, cannot overheat and swing this angle. 30 seconds left, and BJL really trying to find a mistake. No stuns left. He has the Rotero charges, but he has to be mindful of the time, and he knows this. No case to make anything happen, so he's just going to try to walk in here. It's all about isolating each and every one, and it's the ideal 101 of how to 1vx here. But as he goes in and around the site, yet again, there's no case in his hand. Now Kaysen, still playing ring around the rosy on the reinforcement in between the wall, and they double team him perfectly. SSG Academy somehow managed to take the match point after fighting from within. The re-established a lead since even before the match split, and all they need is one more to put that nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just looking at that all chat. At the end of the day, I love it. You mentioned it's a part of Siege. It feels like wherever you go, it's gonna be. I mean, Kaysen had a great game. He's been doing insane and really helping keep SSG on the right path. So, do your thing, man. You're at a match point right now. If you're feeling yourself and the mental shock doesn't come from your own text chat, absolutely at this point. I mean, you really got to trust yourself. And beautiful one tap. Thank you for that slow-mo, because it's insane how crazy that reaction time was there.
Shout out Stan. Hashtag force battery hate. As we go on to the waiting room site, I mean, I feel like Infirmary has been kind of undervalued, and maybe that's just me. I haven't seen too much Fortress gameplay. I think I've seen it once with the LCQs, but the castle usually is a missing piece of the puzzle, and we've only seen him this round for the site. So finally, we're seeing the teams utilize these operators to the best of their ability, but might be a little too late, as this is one of the harder sites to extend out onto if you lose your first body, and SSG Academy have not had a good track record at finding one body. They either find 2 or they get completely destroyed within the first minute.
Yeah, it's maybe not the greatest point. And I quickly just wanted to point out, because you did mention it, we sort of talked about a lot, is the sometimes volatility of a map like this and how, those missing pieces can still be found consistently for teams. I will say, while they might not have the greatest record right now, it has felt like Team Sesh has been very, very refined on Fortress. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it's still a hard map to understand. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different angles. It plays quite a bit differently, I'd argue, from quite a few maps right now in the pool. So, it is certainly that difference. It is, something that you still have to really prepare for. But I would say, I think at this point, you're slowly seeing strategy and those deep, smart plays become possible in T3 and T2.
Reapers opening up first. will take care of Penguin, another player who's been absolutely crucial, and with Kaysen finally racing up to catch up with his teammates that were excelling before him. He'll finally break double digits after his kills last round. Now 3 players on one team that are excelling. Retro has still not been able to find anything in these prior rounds. We've seen him get hip fired. We've seen him get one tap. We've seen him lose everything. As of now, he's starting to wake up as his body is finally awake past that 90-second mark. And even though they're down a body, there's still a lot that they can do, and they need to keep Infirmary up if they want to continue.
Yeah, it took miracles to get there, but hopefully we can see that continue on now as Unity up the advantage here. They're going to try to push for an overtime, obviously. I think the big thing here is it felt like every single round a new superstar is in the midst for this group. You keep one, one person might have 2 rounds of consistency, then you're going to see someone else drop a triple. And we see that continue, maybe not in the way intended, as Retro will find Reaper is there. Your IGL getting on the board.
He's flanking.
A little bit weak. Oh my god.
He's flanking. Retro's upstairs.
Is
DJL loses his life to Kaysen. And now Kaysen yet again. MP5K on mute. Hello? What's going on? Scary picks up here off the joint assist from Kaysen. Penguin letting his thoughts be known. They've thrown that one-man advantage and now gone down 2. Below 30 seconds left, and they have to force out Infirmary. Some verticality is trying to be established, but not enough. Vic Bands shreds off Kaysen on that long angle. Scary playing on the contact. Shreds the first and the second. That's game. SSG Academy come back from behind and completely destroy Unity. Say goodbye to their perfect record from the closed qualifiers as they're here to play, and they'll take the points off of them.
This is where you gotta worry. You saw a 7-1 against Orglis, and a lot of people, I'd argue, said that was probably going to be a fluke. They assumed it was just a bad game for Orglis. Maybe they weren't feeling themselves, and SSG really were. This shows it isn't anymore. This shows that SSG Academy game on Nighthaven, where they went 7-1, that wasn't a fluke. They are a scary team now. They just beat your 1 seed. Absolutely, you have to worry about them, because if they can't win, I don't know who will.
What a game, Cards. I did not expect that. I knew it was going to be a lot of back and forth, but I didn't expect SSG to take it. I mean, I was... actually, I want to say I thought Unity was going to win, but knowing the inconsistencies in terms of chemistry and converting your plays to paper and getting it done, I've known that SSG Academy could be a possibility. But I didn't think it would happen in this fashion. Very close for Unity, but as you said, number 1 seed falls to the Prodigies. And what a game that was.
Now you gotta worry, because this is a team of some youngsters here. There's a lot of players here that have multiple years in, multiple months to sit under a real coach, to sit under a real system and grow. Think about what we see now. Think about what we just saw. What happens when you see a real coach come in here, give them that VOD review, give them that tips, help them form an even better team. And you have someone like Adept here. He's 15. If he's performing like this, if he's continually showing these flashes, imagine what we're going to see in just a year and a half, God forbid 3.
Yeah, an absolute beauty of a game. But that's not all the siege that you'll be seeing tonight. After this break, you're going to see the beauty other lineups, and you'll have Zero and Ali to bring it to you. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you guys in the next one.